Welcome to Unscripted and Unstoppable. I'm your host, Lorraine Quick, and today we're diving into a topic that is at the very core of living a fulfilled and empowered life: self-love. So many of us have been taught to put others first, to strive for perfection, to seek validation outside of ourselves. But what if the real transformation begins within? What if self-love isn't selfish, but actually the foundation for everything, for our relationships, our confidence, even our ability to navigate life's challenges with grace? Today, joining me is someone who understands this deeply. Eliana Barosco is an intuitive heart coach, helping women reconnect with their inner wisdom and embrace self-love as a powerful tool for healing and for personal growth. Through her work, she has guided countless women to move past self-doubt, trust their intuition, heal themselves, and cultivate a deep and nurturing relationship with themselves. In this conversation, we're going to explore what self-love truly means, why it's the missing piece in our lives, and how we can start embracing it no matter where we are on our journey. So if you've ever struggled with self-doubt, if you ever have wondered how to truly care for your own heart, or if you're simply curious about how self-love can transform your life, this episode is for you. Let's dive in. Ileana, can you begin first by sharing your journey of discovering self-love and how it has helped you to become an intuitive heart coach?
Thank you so much, Lorraine, and hi, everyone. So, my discovery of working with the heart, working with the voice of your intuition, and really the voice of your very best friend, really, that has your best interest at heart, that truly loves you, started many years ago, 13 years ago to be exact, when I became very ill. And doctors couldn't understand the cause of my illness. I couldn't understand it. And for as much as the medical experts could do, there was still a question lingering in the back of my mind. Why me? Why did this happen? How on earth I didn't see this happen to me? Because I used to work in the city of London. I had a very demanding job, was working many hours a day. And at the same time, I was practicing sport. I was going out. I was alive for the party. So from the outside, I looked like picture perfect,
Mhm.
right? When that has arrived at the apex of her career, not a care in the world. And then that happened. And it shattered my entire existence. It, it really hit me like a pile of bricks.
Wow.
That was the 21st of December 2012 when it hit me. And so when I realized that none of the medical experts could tell me, A, how I got there, why I became so ill, and B, what I could do to recover my illness, because they were all saying you only have to manage what you're suffering from. We cannot give you a permanent recovery.
Hmm.
Something kind of hit me, and that was depression and severe suicidal thoughts, right?
Mhm.
And because I was spending so many hours alone, I was signed off from work. My doctors were signing me off as they were signing off papers for permanent disability so I could get help because I was paralyzed from the shoulder down, right? So it was really severe. And when you spend so much time on your own, you start thinking and you think more and you think more and a little bit more. And I wasn't sleeping anymore. I wasn't eating properly. I was crying and sobbing 24/7. So I was in a pretty dark place. And anyone that has suffered from depression will tell you exactly the same thing. You feel worthless, you feel powerless, and you feel that no one actually can understand the depths of your suffering. And also, many of my friends had disappeared because a lot of my friends were from work. They were my party friends. There were my sports friends, and I couldn't be partying any longer. I couldn't be playing sports any longer. So I was alone. I was totally alone, and I didn't have a partner that could support me. And my family members were all in Italy. So completely alone. And it's not that aloneness of being alone in a room, because you can be, surrounded by so many different people in the same space, but you can feel alone as well. It was that internal aloneness, feeling like you're in that black, dark void where there's no light at the end of the tunnel. So I basically went through this intense journey of really contemplating about taking my life, because I was thinking, what's the point of being here? I knew at some point during my thinking and overthinking things that the one thing that became very clear was I've tried everything in my life. I
Mhm.
did everything that everybody wanted me to do and everybody wanted me to be, and it's still not enough. And so, because I had so much time to think, I kind of started replaying back some of the key episodes in my life, right?
Mhm.
From the time when my mom left my dad when I was 3.5, because he was an alcoholic. He was always in and out of work. He didn't want to have any children, so she left him naturally. So I was raised by a single mother who came with her own emotional and parental baggage as well, right? And she
Right.
did the best she could, frankly. And then all the bullying that went through when I was at school, and all the striving to really compete in the world of the corporate life, competing at school, competing in sports, competing with my friends who had the best body, who had the best outfit, who had the best makeup. And then I thought, wow, I'm exhausted. I knew I was exhausted because by then I hadn't been sleeping for weeks. But there was a point when I said to myself, is life this hard? Are things so hard? Why do I have to feel that it's a drag to get out of bed, to express myself, to express what I desire, to express what I want? Isn't there a different way to do this? And
Mhm.
bearing in mind, I was still in a lot of pain because I couldn't move my right arm, right? I couldn't do anything with it. I was in agony day and night. And so I went through literally at some point through the stage where I said, do you know what? Maybe. And that was my awakening. As I was watching a very cheesy movie, many people think, oh, it's a great movie. I think it was a very cheesy movie. It's called G.I. Jane with Demi Moore,
Mhm.
right? And it's about this female GI. And I remember I was running Netflix by then 24/7. So I'm there in and out of consciousness at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And there goes the movie running in the background. And there is a scene, right? And that's when I actually snapped out of my unconscious state. And I was fully awake at that point when the scene was running in the background. There is a scene in the movie where she's doing this intense, grueling training by the beach with all the other GIs. And the Master Chief says to the lady, do you know what the best part of pain is? And she says, no, Master Chief, you tell me. And he says, the best part of pain is that it lets you know that you are alive. And that snapped me out, literally, of that state of feeling sorry for myself. And I thought, wow, I felt like there was an invisible force that had spoken to me, because I'd been looking for answers everywhere to my intense sadness, my sense of hopelessness. And here comes this movie with this one scene.
Mhm.
And I thought, well, that's me. And that's when actually I started feeling like the voice of my heart was speaking to me. Because about an hour later, and this is dawn, right? 5 o'clock in the morning here, because I had many of these mornings when I was waiting for dawn to arrive and tell me something that I didn't know. And I'm thinking, well, maybe there's a way that I can retrace my steps and find out how I got here. So maybe there's a way I can reverse this.
Mhm.
And at that point, I began going through the FU moment, which went on for several weeks, right?
Mhm.
FU. I'm not taking no for an answer about my health. F you, I'm not taking no for an answer that this is the only way. And I could see that something has stirred inside of me. The sense of self-preservation. I didn't know it was self-love at that point because I was still in that very strong, angry F you stage. Why did this happen to me? But there was something that was shifting, very powerful inside of me that was saying, this is your way out. You're
Wow.
just opening the door now. Keep going. There's more light where that came from. Keep searching. The answers are there for you. And so slowly the next day, when I finally decided to drag myself out of bed, like at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, I wasn't feeling like crying, anymore.
Wow.
And I realized that there was something, and I thought, maybe I have more power than I think that I thought I had. Maybe there is some other journey that I can start today. And so that's how my journey back in embracing self-love started. Because when people talk about self-love, at that time, even I was still very ill and it was an emotional wreck. So anyone that was coming to me saying, well, maybe you should love yourself more, maybe you should start appreciating yourself more, I would just burst in tears because it's literally like someone hits you, someone slaps you in the face because you don't feel like this. And
Hmm.
although in the coaching world, those are great words to use, I get it because I use these words in and out. But someone who's in that state, like a client who's really deeply suffering physically and emotionally, that's the last thing you want to hear. Because although it's true, but that is the end goal, isn't it?
Hmm.
And so I began interpreting this as, wow, maybe there's a different route. And this inner dialogue started within me because I knew then that I had opened the voice of my intuition, the voice of my heart. And I could tell that it was talking to me louder and louder, saying, keep going, keep going. You've tapped into something really powerful. So my journey of rediscovering really self-love has been a journey of appreciation, really appreciating that, yes, I had made so many mistakes. Yes, I hadn't seen the signals decades before becoming ill. Yes, I couldn't see the causes, plural, of my depression. I hadn't realized I'd been depressed for years. I hadn't. But then how about we start taking new steps today? Let's take it one step at a time.
That's a very, very powerful story. And it makes me think a lot about how when I read, but also when I watch films, I always look for the lesson in the film, because that's why truthfully, that's why I watch it. That's why I read the books that I read. But also, it's like what you described with the G.I. Jane movie was, it was like fate, destiny put that in your path, that moment in time when you were really ready to hear that message. And then what you did was amazing. You listened to it, right? You listened to it. And out of that, it seems, and tell me if I'm wrong, it seems to me like if you were to describe or define what self-love is, if talking to someone who might not know that much about it, or a potential client, um, is it really this voice inside you that is encouraging you, and that it starts teeny tiny, but that as you listen to it, it nurtures and grows into a louder and louder voice? Or is there a different way you explain that to your clients?
It's exactly what it is. Because the problem with not listening to the voice is that, and I know people talk about signs all the time. They talk about, in our coaching world, we talk about synchronicities, right?
Right.
It's all about finding that exact person in that very exact moment, in that exact situation, and you think, boom, I have it. But it's not like it happens only once. It's not like if you didn't get to the right stop at the right time, boom, you missed the boat. No, this isn't what life is all about. We have synchronicities, we have these meaningful coincidences all the time.
Yep.
The only thing is, like in my case, is that the messages will get louder and louder because in my case, my body was screaming louder and louder, meaning, hey, pay attention. You're deviating from what you're meant to be doing. You're
Okay.
deviating from your passions. So for someone that doesn't know what self-love is because it sounds unattainable, self-love is about slowing down, taking a break from the fast lane, right? Taking a break and saying, hold on a moment, I'm listening now. What are the signals? What's going on with me? How do I feel? It's not about, the other person saying something to you and you think, oh yeah, okay. I wonder what they said. Oh, I didn't like the face they made, because otherwise you go back into that overthinking. It's really about touching base with you and saying, and even putting a hand on your heart and saying, how do I feel after this? That's all it takes. Because when you do this, you can process that conversation, you can process that interaction, you can process that dialogue, you can process that event, and you give yourself the time to digest it, dilute it. And then, of course, you can say, well, this isn't really for me, or I don't agree with this, right? It's their opinion, they're entitled to it, and that's fine, but it doesn't really agree with my field of perception, with the way I see things, with the way I want to live my life. But that's okay, because it's not about someone being right or wrong. It's about what is good for you at this point in time. And then maybe next month you feel different, you know? So it's about taking a step back without feeling guilty about doing it. Because the
Mhm.
one thing I didn't do for decades was stop, reset, and feel. Stop, reset, and feel, which is stop, take a breath, right? Because the breath is what puts you in touch with your inner voice, with your intuition, right? The breath is the prana, the life force that always keeps you motivated and inspired from within. And then feel, see how you feel. But the feelings of feeling guilty or ashamed, they were with me for decades. That's why I decided to live the life in the fast lane without thinking too much.
Mhm.
Because again, I was guilty about not achieving this or that. I wouldn't have been the perfect daughter, the perfect wife, you know, the perfect schoolmate, etc., etc., etc. So, and I see this with many women that I work with. They are living with guilt, even without them realizing that they have guilt about not being the perfect mother, not giving enough to their family, not looking after their elderly parents or relatives enough. So is all this thing about not doing enough? Maybe I should spend an extra hour here. Maybe I haven't done this. And that controls your life by the time you've realized you're not listening to yourself anymore. So stopping is one thing of looking after yourself at the emotional and physical level, but it's also a way of understanding. Am I doing this because I feel guilty? Why am I feeling guilty? About why would I feel guilty about stopping for 5 minutes and taking a breather? Because we all do this, right? But it's important that we do, because otherwise, as the saying goes, we are pouring from an empty cup. And unless you're willing to take the time to refill your cup, eventually you're gonna go into burnout, which is exactly what happened to me.
So when I listen to you talk, what I hear is many things. One is just that self-love is a disciplined approach to life where you slow down and you listen to your heart. And two, that and this is important for women, I think in particular, we are very focused on the relationships we have with others. And what we tend to do is give and give and give and give and give. And we strive to seek what do they expect of me and how can I deliver that for them? And what I'm getting is that self-love allows us to approach our relationships with more on authenticity. and that we can offer ourselves as who we are once we are clear on who we are and once we know what we need and want, so that when we engage with others, our relationships are deeper and more powerful. Is that's what I got from what you've said so far. Is that true?
I love the way you said it. I love the way you summarize it. Oh my God, I love this so much. Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. Because when you do this kind of work, and I know people start cringing when I talk work, right? They think, oh no, goodness, I have to do this. It takes 1 minute to stop, reset, take a breath, and see how you feel. And you have to, the benefits are going to be enormous. But when you do this, when you integrate this, right,
Mm-hmm.
into your daily, as you were saying, the dialogue with your loved ones changes completely. And it does something else because they're going to notice your changes, right? You're going to feel more at ease with sharing things with them. You feel that the way you're open and honest with them is right from the heart.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you speak from the heart, nothing evil can come out. Nothing detrimental can come into your relationships. Because when you truly say how you feel, you don't feel the need to snap, you don't feel the need to shout, because it comes from a good space.
Mm-hmm.
And people that care for you, they will stay in your life and they're going to appreciate that. So, if anything, you're going to sift out the people that are just draining you, especially the people that are not your immediate family members, right? But obviously, they're not going to want to stay with you because they're thinking, "Whoa, okay, hold on a minute. This
Yeah.
person is talking sense now. And I don't like this, right? Because I cannot run these subterfuges anymore, this
Yeah.
kind of innuendos, right? And so they're going to see that you stand in your power. They're going to see that you're putting healthy boundaries, right? Because this is really important when we engage with other people. But they're going to love that. And they're going to be inspired as well.
Mm-hmm.
This is how, at least this is what happened with my relationships. Because when I started talking common sense from the heart, then the people around me were mesmerized and they were saying, wow, gosh, I mean, listening to you, you've changed so much.
Uh-huh.
That's what a couple of people said to me years ago, right? Because they couldn't recognize me. I was so, I would get a fright every time. Every time someone in a room would say, well, what do you think, Eliana? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I have to say what I think. I've been called out on the spot. And then all of a sudden I'm there relaxed and talking and giving my opinion. Even, there are times, especially with us women, where we tend to get very emotional about some things because they're really close to our heart, right? But that's okay. We can still communicate the sense of feeling lost, the feeling of feeling hurt, even. But it's a different thing than actually bottling everything up and doing something for the sake of something because you're afraid of upsetting someone else. And that's when your energies plummet. So it's about, you know, training yourself, integrating these very simple practices in your daily life.
Well, can you walk us through some of the tools or practices specifically? Like, give us an example or two of what you would have your clients do working with you around connecting to their heart.
So the first thing we would do, first and foremost, because I do a lot of heart attunement,
Hmm.
is because there is this constant battle of the mind and the heart that goes on, right? Some people call it brain, some people call it mind, some people call it the ego. And, whatever resonates really with the audience is all okay. But essentially, is all the negative thoughts, all the negative emotions, the same thoughts that come back to you over and over again about something that you're dealing with, some problem you had, some situation that you think you're never going to see the end of it. The first space to really reset that thinking, to stop the overthinking, first of all, is connected to the breath, right? Because the breath is so powerful. Because again, you're moving away from that overthinking and you begin to connect to the physical sensations in your body. Leave them there, wherever they are. check with yourself. Can you be okay with the sensations that you have? This is all an exercise about self-acceptance,
Mhm.
right? So you don't have to feel, oh, I'm feeling this pain, I need to change it. Leave it, leave it, leave it there. So connect to the breath. And then your brain and your mind or your ego are going to start talking to you. Because again, it doesn't take long before the same thoughts come back up. I'll probably give you 4 or 5 seconds, maybe seven top. And then again, the brain starts flooding you with thoughts. Can you be okay with those thoughts? Just saying, it's okay what I'm feeling. It's okay what I'm thinking. It's perfectly okay. Can you be okay with feeling this way? Can you be okay? This is the foundation of self-acceptance. This is the foundation of building self-love. And this is the foundation of building compassion for yourself. And the thing is, when I realized I was doing this work, and then I was engaging people from work and, friendships, my private life, every time they were sharing things like this. In the past, I remember I used to be very triggered by everything they were sharing. I started seeing their fair share of problems in a different way because I started connecting with them on a different level. So every time they were sharing their troubles with their husbands or wives or their children or their parents or their co-workers, the only thing I was feeling was, wow, you know, these people feel the same way as I do.
Mhm.
So it put me in a different state, which is actually when I realized that I could become a heart coach because I thought, well, I found a way to actually create strength and inner power through from this negative thinking, from these negative emotions. They actually have become my stronghold to build more resilience. So maybe I can teach others to do the same. And I can show them really the repercussion that this has on their physical health as well. Not just the mental, but the physical as well.
Interesting. So it begins by just really paying attention to your breath, slowing yourself down, and then letting whatever come, not judging
Yeah.
it, not trying to control it, just simply staying in this state. And like, do you just do that for a few minutes and then you're done? Or where do you start to take action on that? Or
Well, the action comes, this is the inner dialogue that you begin. This is the inner dialogue from the heart that you begin with yourself because it's a little bit as if you were talking to a
Mhm,
child that is crying, that is sobbing, that is looking for your guidance, because that's what the mind is all about.
mhm.
This is what your limiting beliefs are. This is what your negative thinking is. It's a child that needs that reassurance that despite the fact that they feel this way, it's okay. And then they can move on to feel different.
It's almost like you just let it run its course so that it's like a need to just release all of this stuff, right? And then you just let it release and release and release and release. And then at some point, there's nothing left to release. And that's the voice that will guide you. That's the message that will guide you.
Yes, and you need
Okay.
that release because we as humans, we have a tendency to bottle everything up. I am the top person on this planet that bottled everything up. I'm an expert at it.
I beat you,
I'm
I'm sure.
and I'm feisty, so I always want to be right and I always want to have the last word. That's how I was educated. That's how all of the females in my family were, right? Always super feisty, always super nervous, always triggered by everything and everyone. So, you have to let it come up because it's like a pressure cooker.
Mhm.
You need to allow that steam to blow off because otherwise it's going to do exactly what it did to me. It's going to make you physically ill and it's going to make you physically disconnected from your body and emotionally disconnected from people because you're constantly looking for a source of energy because your energies are going to run out into someone else and they can't. Because again, the law of attraction, you mirror the same people around you anyway. So they can't feed you energy because you can't feed them. So it becomes a vicious circle, but you need to allow for that to come up. You need to allow it. And don't be afraid to keep telling yourself that it's perfectly okay. We're all human beings. It is okay to feel these emotions. It's okay to have a bad day. It's okay to have a couple of hours where you feel, you know what? I don't want to talk to anyone now. I'm not feeling so good. It's okay not to be happy 24/7. This is the kind of misunderstanding that people think, oh, you're a coach. Do you know how many times I've seen on social media or people contacting me separately saying, oh, you don't understand because you're a coach, so you've moved out of that. So what? I'm an android? You know, it beggars belief. We all go through the same emotions,
We do.
you know, and I practice what I preach. I just retire for that moment. Obviously, the more you practice these methods, the easier it gets to manage your emotions, to release the negativity that comes with several of these emotions. But it's necessary. We have to do it because, it's not just one challenge that we have in life and that's it. We are constantly challenged by life. There's going to be always things that are going to be coming to us and things that sometimes are going to be out of our control.
You know,
So,
I was just going to say, as you talk, it was like at first I thought, well, people could journal too, just to release all that noise. You could journal as you do this, but I write poetry, and what I haven't done yet, which I'm going to start doing now, is inserting into my writing time a breathing practice. Because when I start writing poetry, usually I'm reacting to something and I just dump stuff. I just dump stuff on paper, and then when I calm down enough, I'm able to articulate that or manipulate those words into something that would be considered art. And when I'm done writing a poem, I don't feel exhausted. I feel very relaxed because I have let go of the stuff I've been holding on to. And the little voice that's inside of me actually is the channel that I am actually finalizing the poem through. So it's very therapeutic for me. But what I just realized from our conversation today was it's time to now integrate breathing into that process because I think that may actually completely change it for me. So
yes,
better, right? Yeah.
yes, and it's so beautiful that you're using poetry. I mean, that is so, I mean, to me, poetry is one of these creative states really that makes us human with a capital H. It is so beautiful, honestly.
Mm.
Um, Breathing is key because breathing is new energy, breathing is new life force. We need that.
Yeah.
We need that because we need to bring oxygen to our body. We need to bring that vital force so we can take the next breath and think the next thought, make the next decision, make the next choice, and say the next thing that we want to say, just like you and I are in this podcast. So, people like myself, in the past, people often underestimate the power of the breath. And normally when you're so much under pressure, when you're so stressed out, you go into that shallow breathing mode, right? You go into the sympathetic nervous system, which is far from sympathetic because it just rises your blood pressure, increases your tension, increasing your stress levels, releases all the cortisol and adrenaline in your bloodstream, and the list goes on and on and on. Take a breath. That's the power of you controlling your physiology and controlling your emotions. You get back in the driver's seat. That's the analogy I always use. You stop being a passenger and you finally take control of your route.
Wow. Well, if you think about a woman who might struggle with feelings of unworthiness or have really low self-esteem, how could she use what we've talked about today to build that sense of self?
Well, If there's someone like I was, who has zero self-esteem, who had no belief in herself, I would say, I'll ask one question actually. I would say, what's the alternative? The alternative to tapping into your own inner voice and listening to your guidance and listening to what is best for you. Is it continue going, exploring the same route that you're on now? Because you know where that is going to lead you.
Mm-hmm.
You know where this is going, right? Because you've been feeling it for a while by now. You've had mood swings, you've had maybe severe anxiety or panic attacks, even. You're not sleeping, or maybe you have to take pills to stay awake during your day, right? You keep giving and giving and giving, and you find yourself so depleted that you cannot even leave the house now. So, isn't it worth that you start exploring a different route? And when people think, oh my goodness, I have to change course, they already think about, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to buy a ticket to go to Australia or to go to the North Pole or South Pole or, Mars. No, you just take a step. You just take a step. You get out of from the chair, you take one step at a time. No one is going to ask you to run a marathon when the only thing you can do is take a walk in the park. But make sure you take that walk in the park. Make sure you give yourself the time. Make sure you nurture yourself. Introduce that self-nurturing habit every day. Learn to say to yourself, yes, I deserve this me time. Whether it's cooking something for yourself and, turning off your phone for like an hour, no one is going to say, oh, you're a bad person for doing that. Oh, I need to take a break. You go. I'm going to stay in for the next half an hour. No one is going to think any less of you. If you need to take the day off from work, go ahead and do it. If you need to have that conversation, go ahead and do it. These are different ways that you can build self-worth for yourself, because remember that the only critic in your life is you, nobody else's.
Mm-hmm.
You are the judge and jury of your life, right? And when you think you're not good enough, when you think you're not doing well enough, ask yourself this question: according to whom? Who is this imaginary judge and jury? Who is this self-appointed judge and jury? What are these standards? Who appoints them? Oh, everybody says, oh, everybody who? 6.5 billion people. Do you know all of them? Because I don't. I believe in you because I was you.
So what I hear and what I think is very important is first you have to start by recognizing if you continue with the way you've been doing what you've always done, you're just going to keep getting more of that. So it's sort of like you can go down that road but if you really want to change something, start by taking really small baby steps. Start by connecting through your breath to who you are and what your intuition is telling you, and that voice will affirm you over time and it will grow stronger over time. Start asking yourself, what do I need right now in this moment? I'm going to turn my camera a little bit here. What do I need right now in this moment? And then seek that. No matter what it is, just seek it. And over time, this is healing, right? We're talking about a healing process that can, if it took you 25, 35, 55 years to create this unwellness, it's going to take time, not that much time, not 35 years, but it is going to take time for you to go through a process of recovery. But it won't happen if all you do is sit and wish for it. It happens when you start taking these little teeny tiny baby steps.
It's a choice, right? You summarized it perfectly. It has to be a choice because I know many people might take this the wrong way, right? Same as I did when I became really ill because I thought, why me? But in reality, it was my choice to get there. It was my choice to create this much misalignment in my body. It was my choice not to listen to my body, to pop a pill so that I will numb my nervous system so I wouldn't get the aches and pains and the headaches and the migraines and the insomnia. So it is a choice to feel in a certain way, to feel emotionally challenged the way I was. So stop being so hard on yourself.
Hmm.
Right? Why are you being so hard on yourself when you know you can take a different choice, you can make a different choice, you can take a different step?
And just trust that. Even if you don't feel anything different at first, just trust it and keep going.
Because the heart will guide you, right?
Mhm.
There will be always resistance from the mind. The mind will want to keep you stuck. No, I'm only familiar with what I done up until yesterday. This feels really familiar. And their heart will say, yeah, but we're moving away from that because that was really hurtful. That was toxic to you.
Mhm.
You know, those McDonald's burgers were super toxic. How about you make a different choice? How about you choose to have more water to stay more hydrated rather than popping the soft drinks? How about you choose to have some healthy food, like some meat and veggies, rather than popping that burger and fries?
It's just a
It
gentler voice in you that will emerge if you allow it to, if you create a quiet space for it. Yeah. So let's take it another level and talk about trauma. So all of us at some level have experienced some level of trauma. It can be severe, like the death of a loved one, for example, or it can just be minor. You got fired from a job. I shouldn't even say that's minor. It could be a big deal in someone's life, right? A range of trauma. How do you specifically use this process to address a particular trauma in your life, or can you?
You can, but you also need to realize, and this is what many of my clients that struggle come to realize when they follow this process. We are powerful, okay? We are great creators on this planet. We are meant to create new opportunities, new perceptions, new possibilities, but we are not God. We are a portion of Source, we're a portion of God, right? But we are not God. There will always be things that, for as much as we try and plan with the best of our abilities, every time we plan for risks ahead, there will always be situations and events that are completely out of our control. And
Absolutely.
so we have to stop taking a lot of them personal because we make it so personal, like we don't see anything else beyond that. We identify with that. And especially when you lose someone like I have, for instance, there was a time when that's all I could think about and that's all I could feel. And so, as I was saying earlier, the first step is if you need to feel it, give yourself permission to feel it because not thinking about it isn't going to cut it,
Right.
isn't going to do. Because the moment you're alone on your own, that you're not with your confidant, with your friend, with someone close to you that can actually support you, you're going to be left with the same thoughts over and over again.
Mhm.
So give yourself permission. So many really underestimate the power of giving themselves permission to feel that because it's part of you. And there's no point in it, pretending that it doesn't exist. Give yourself permission, but also, say to yourself that you are doing really well in very difficult circumstances. Because potentially many of your circumstances, they were not of your own doing directly. If you got fired, or if a car accident happened, or a death of a loved one's, you were not the direct actor, right? The person that made it happen. So understand that there will always be these things that will happen, right? But don't forget to remind yourself you are doing your very best.
I call that giving yourself grace, right?
Yes. Giving
Yes.
yourself a break, you
Yeah.
know? Stop being so hard because it's the thing is with feeling physically well or not is the energy that we direct. to certain things that we think and feel, to certain thoughts. And we constantly direct our energies just to focus on that thing. It becomes exhausting at some point.
It does.
And so if you're in that state where you're feeling when you're traumatized by something that happened to you, at some point your energy levels would disappear. So one way to actually build them up is to give yourself permission, because you give yourself your power back of saying, I am going to be kind to myself. I'm going to feel compassion for myself. And you know what? I don't have to know it all. But I've done my best. And since I've done my best in these circumstances, there's nothing more I can do.
And is
You know,
there the thing I think a lot about from my own experiences is sometimes I can get stuck wallowing in. I mean, I can let myself feel those feelings and think those thoughts. Um, Maybe I haven't done a good job at this point of giving myself grace. But then I get stuck though in the wallowing.
Mhm.
So there has to be, I want there to be some kind of shift then from I've given myself grace. I've allowed myself to feel these feelings. I've expressed them through whatever format I want to express them through. And then I want to release them. I want to let them go so that I can pick something new, so I can choose something more. How do I make that leap? Or does it just happen when it's timed right?
let me ask you something. When you allow yourself to feel these things, do you feel safe about them? Do you feel safe as you're feeling them?
No.
Because that is a very important thing. It's about creating this space where it is safe for you to have that experience. That is why I stress the importance on constantly saying to yourself, it is okay.
Okay.
Because this is what a mother would say. This is what a good parent would say to their child. Come here, I'm going to hug you. It's okay. It's perfectly okay. Hug yourself if you have to.
Hmm.
Stroke yourself. There's nothing more powerful like self-touch to really reconnect with your spirit, reconnect with your essence, reconnect with your physical body, especially if someone is suffering from some physical ailment of any sort, right? Because we tend to sort of look away from the body and think, oh, body, I hate you because you're causing me all this pain. And that creates a more of an intimate experience to actually embrace ourselves fully. But this element of safety is very important because safety is all from the heart, right? And and it's about understanding that, you know what, 20 minutes is not enough. I need an hour. Do you feel guilty when you take that time or not? Oh, is it too much? I should be doing something else. It's snapping back into the space of the mind that is the culprit. That's why many of us tend to linger and wallow, as you were saying, rather than saying, I'm giving myself permission, you know, and maybe this isn't enough today. I will come back again tomorrow, but I will feel it for as long as I need to. But it has to come from a good space of feeling okay with it. That feeling of not feeling on top of the world is part of us. So there's no point in denying it as being, oh, it's separate. I'm
Hmm.
just a happy person. I'm just the doer that has to be the business person, the mother or the father, the teacher, the mentor, the coach. No, that part is also part of us. The part that wants to cry, the part that wants to scream.
So you
For
just
me, for me, feeling this is a daily thing. It's a daily practice.
okay. So it's about staying in touch with whatever feelings you're having and saying they're okay. This is this
Yeah,
is this is who I am. This is what I'm going through right now, and it's just fine. Um,
yeah.
um, okay.
And also, take a snapshot, do a copy and paste in a way. See how you feel in the morning when you get up. Just take pen and paper. How do I feel this morning? Okay, I feel like this. I'm a little bit tired. Oh, my mind is quite relaxed at the moment. And then when you come back at night, before you go to bed, Take the pen and paper and compare notes. How do I feel now? Okay, what has happened today that has made me feel this way? What have I eaten? Because diet is as important.
Mhm.
So
So
it,
be
it's a
reflective about
very
that. Okay.
it's a very healthy way of, again, as we were saying an hour ago, taking a step back, resetting,
Mhm.
pressing pause, and taking a breath and taking a look. It's about an intimate observation but from a space of kindness, right? Not from the space of the mind, over analyzing, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this. Oh, but I don't understand why I feel. No,
Don't judge.
allow it is. No, observe it. Don't absorb it.
Interesting. I like that. So, last question for you as we wrap up our session today. Ileana, what message would you like to leave with our listeners who might be starting their own journey towards self-love?
So, if you are curious at this point and desire to know more about the power of the heart, really, the power of heart attunement, to trust yourself, trust your intuition, and build self-confidence and emotional resilience, I am running a free 7-day experience on Facebook, which starts on Thursday, the 27th of February, 2025. So in 6 days' time. And this is about connecting to the voice of the heart and using your heart as a compass to really pick up on the energies that fluctuate in and around you so you can build this intuitive tuning fork for yourself. And you can learn to trust your senses, your sensitivity, trust your intuition, and maybe pick up on something that maybe you had taken for granted before about people, about the things you do, your perceptions, and see really what drains your energies, what builds your energies as well, because it's important to find things that actually boost your energy levels. What wastes your energy away? What are you giving your energies to as a way to really look after your emotional and physical well-being? So it's free, and all the sessions are going to be running, they're going to be Facebook Lives with my methodologies for you to try in your everyday life. And you're all welcome to join us.
Well, I'm definitely going to sign myself up. I will be sure to include the link for sign up in the notes to this particular podcast session as well. I just, from the bottom of my heart, girlfriend, I want to thank you so much for being here today and for sharing your wealth of wisdom and knowledge about the heart connection and self-love. It has been an incredible conversation, and I hope that today's episode has given all of our listeners, all of those watching the video, a deeper understanding of what it truly means to love yourself, not just in theory, but in some real practical ways. Ileana, thank you from the bottom of my heart. If there's one thing I hope each and every one of you can take away from this episode today is that self-love isn't something you have to earn. It is something you choose moment by moment in your life, whether it's setting boundaries, listening to your intuition, simply speaking to yourself, actually always speaking to yourself with kindness. Every act of self-love, I believe, creates a ripple effect in your life that we could write books and books about. If you do want to connect with Ileana and learn more about her work, be sure to check in the show notes for links to her websites and other resources. Again, sign up for her upcoming program if you're able to do that. And if you found this episode helpful, I'd love for you to share it with a friend that could use more self-love in their life too. Thank you all for spending time with us today on Unscripted and Unstoppable. Until next time, keep listening to your heart, showing up for yourself, and remember, you are worthy of love exactly as you are.